Welcome back to the Toll Road, a zone lock challenge where we earn the gold and pay the toll to unlock the next zone. Previously, we paid the toll of 8,000 gold in Durotar and ended episode 2 with a bit of a question mark in terms of expansions and zones that are stuck behind, not quite physically connected to anywhere. And there are quite a few of those in the game actually. I have done my best to research this, and it does seem there are 6 of those, as we exclude Outland and Draenor being physically connected by the Dark Portal in Blasted Lands. So it is Pandaria, the Broken Isles, Koltiras, Shadowlands, Cas Algar, and also Midnight, but I don't really have a clue about Midnight. But please do correct me if I'm wrong about any of these. So my idea is on the main wheel to always include one special portal slot. If that does land, a secondary wheel of those disconnected expansions and their starting zones that we haven't visited yet will spin. This will drastically change the options, and I think this is a good way to include them without making the wheel spin filled with crazy amounts of zones on the first one. So with that in mind, we can now roll our next zone, and as a reminder, these are the zones available: Northern Barrens, Ashara, Mulgora, Boran Tundra, the Walking Shores, Stranglethorn Vale, Western Plaguelands, Silverpine Forest, and also 6 on the portal slot if we do land on that. Let's spin the wheel and see where it lands. Ooh, okay, Boran Tundra. Now that will be tricky and likely going to be a very long grind. We are going back to Orgrimmar, where we await the arrival of the Zeppelin to take us across the pond to Northrend. Guys, I'm kind of scared about this one. And there it is, Wolsong Hold and the Boran Tundra. Welcome to otherwise known as Frozen Hell. Alright, so let's take a couple of laps to take in the scenery, and yes, at least we do have a flying in this expansion, but there is a lot to wrap our heads around in this one. We need a total of 33,000 gold for this toll to be paid, which is no small amount with only 1 Northrend and 2 starter zones available. There is a lot to figure out here, and also a lot to test in this zone. My initial thought process here was the dungeons and also the raid in the Nexus. Even if it just is raw gold, that is one thing to be tested. Second thought was skinning. I remember the mammoth and also the rhinos having some rare leather types, so maybe that is also something to be tested. We of course need to check up on the ores and also the herbs. Are they viable to farm? I don't know. And it does also look like that these rares, which there are only 3 of, does have at least some unique drops worth looking into. There might be a whole list of other things we could kill that might have some loot table worth looking at, but I'm not too sure. Maybe these elementals here. And what about fishing? Is that worth it here in Northrend? Honestly, I got no clue at all. Well, if we're gonna try that, we might as well pick up fishing here at the trainer. Also with Northrend mining and also the herbalism, that should be good. So, where do we start? Well, I think we should be starting with something we always know sells quite well: a mixed root of ores and herbs. So for full transparency here, while farming herbs and also ores, I always or almost always turn on chromie time, as we do not want to leave any low-hanging fruit in terms of the XP. It is a great way to slowly but steadily increase the levels on Deathtoll. And that was 1 hour done. Looks like we got a new high-scoring farm, at least in terms of open world farming. Very much to my surprise, as I did not research it, and it all got to do with cobalt ore being worth 25 gold and also having 2,551 units sold each day. This is a bit of a gold mine, maybe. Yeah, I think it looks like the Wrath of the Lich King zones here won't be too much of a struggle after all. With that said, we are swapping over to Deathtoll in Orgrimmar, where she will be doing her first mail opening. Nice! 2,980 gold, mostly from 2 of the transmogs, one of them the Ancestral Boot, which was one of the very low sale rates, one of the ones she actually picked up herself while leveling. That is pretty awesome. She will also take the long journey across the pond to Northrend. And her first stop is the General Goods Merchant, getting 4 new bags with 14 slots, which is why we needed the gold in the first place. We need a little bit of a detour here to Nakale village to pick up some Northrend skinning that for some reason is located out here. I think you all know where this is going, and there is two reasons for it. One is to simply test how skinning is gonna be doing, and secondly to allow some levels on Deathtoll. So let's get out there and kill and skinning some mammoth. Oh boy. Well guys, we have our first death. Just around 30 minutes on the recorder, and I do want to note that this farm might be viable, but we are 2 levels below the mobs, and the Arctic fur does make this kind of interesting, but just not right now. Well, rules are rules, and it's not a big one either. It really isn't. 1% of 2,932 gold is 29, and you know what I do think this penalty should be bigger. So let's increase it next time to 10% in the future, right? I think that's a good idea. But for now, we will send this gold to the first random character we see here in Orgrimmar. Well, or the first one that have an easy name to write, which is this guy, Saksuk. He's the lucky winner. There we go. So after that complete failure, I think what I want to do is to level up Deathtoll to around level 35, as that is where she outscaled pretty much everything that she could skin for quite a while in most of the zones. And we will do that the old-fashioned way by questing first a few levels here in Durotar. That is 1 down, level 9. That is 10, which of course means we can now have a Raptor ground mount. That is good. And she is now going right back to Boron Tundra to continue questing up there. There we go. Level 11, 12, and 13. I think you get the idea now. So let's skip ahead to where this is going to end.
One eternity later.
Funny enough, we ended up back where we started in Durotar after exhausting all quests in Boron Tundra, and now, level 33, we all have also exhausted every single quest in Durotar. How much does one troll gal and her 2 new wolf pets, Freki and Giri, has to do to get to level 35? Well, apparently a lot. So we finished this off in Tristful Glade with level 34, and then finally level 35. Thank you. So with that all done, which did take a lot longer than I thought, we can get back to actually testing our skinning here in Boron Tundra in a way that should be a little bit more efficient than before. 1 hour later, we do have a new high score. Oh yeah, 8,872 gold, collecting 1,188 materials, so that is incredible, and it definitely justifies the level grind, but this is not something we can just endlessly farm, as both the Boron leather and also the Arctic fur does have its limits in terms of sales. Though they sell for a lot, the amount is not bottomless. But there was another reason to get levels up on Deathtoll, and that got to do with what is behind her here, which is the instances, because those do have a lot of dragons, and those bastards, yes, they can be skinned, so for sure she will have a higher gold per hour running them than Deathtoll would, and I believe they drop Arctic fur even more often than the outdoors does. We will be starting off with the instance called the Nexus, and in terms of transmog, I have absolutely no idea if there is anything of note in here. And I also got no clue if this will be worth it, but there is only really one way to figure that out. Oh, maybe I should do some research sometimes, because I've mistakenly thought that level 35 would be enough to do Wrath of the Lich King instances, and the first mob is giving me a bit of a wake-up call. So I think we know where this is going for Deathtoll. Yeah, that's right, straight back to Tristful Glade doing some more quest. Well, here we go again. That is 36, 37, and 38 with a rare spawn kill, and unfortunately, we are now completely out of quest in all of the unlocked zones that we have. That is kind of awkward. The question is, are 3 levels enough to do the instance now? Well, yes, it does look like it, much to my surprise actually. Okie dokie, that was 58 minutes, and that is our 7th kill on the last boss, which means we have done 7 runs. A total of 7,874 gold is collected, which sounds a lot better than what it actually is. We do have one nice piece of transmog, but honestly most of these are both duplicates and also have some very low sell rate, and the price tag, well, it's likely gonna be ended up disenchanted in a week or maybe 2 when they've been sitting in the auction house for a while. Also, the skinning is kind of disappointing, only collecting 3 active fur. I believe we are in need of some fresh air now, some salt water, and to stretch the legs here on Deathtoll, and we will do that by trying to fish. To be honest, not one of my favorite things in the world to do, but yeah, I'll give it a go. That was 1 hour of my life I will never get back, and I brought in yeah, that was terrible. 1143 gold, so let's just call this a slightly pathetic farm. Though the Borean Man of War is worth something, but there is not really much of a market, and only fishing one of them each time is making it rather problematic. We will be testing fishing again in other zones, but to be frank, if they are not high profit, I'm likely not really bothering, as this was the most boring 1 hour of farming so far in the series. Our next move is the raid, our first raid that is, and we can only really do them once a week, and I think we are likely only doing them for raw gold. Well, I did not really remember much about the Eye of Eternity, though I probably did do it back in the days, but man, that is another waste of time. At least when it comes to gathering gold, but at least it only took 3 minutes, so it's probably worth it, to be honest. Of course, we will also be testing out the last instance, the Oculus, and you better believe we will be going back to Deathtoll with all the skinnable mobs in here, but I think we will only do a couple of runs just to get a feeling for the gold per hour, as I do not have high hopes for this one. It is one of those annoying instances where you have to be fighting on a dragon and mount up and all those kinds of things. I just really don't like this one. And there we have it, 26 minutes later, 3 instances, and while the recorder does say 2020 gold, that is again very heavily inflated by BOEs that never will sell. And there was also a lot less skinnable mobs than what I remembered, so I would for sure say that this is a waste of time over any of the other instances that are available for us. So now we have actually tested everything I wanted to test, except from these elementals, but I already did those while leveling Deathtoll, so I don't really see them dropping anything good. How I see it, we now just need to get to the 33,000 gold, and we got a long way to go unless we get lucky and sell something big on the auction house. And it has been a few days since I last checked the mail, so let's see how it goes here on Deathtoll. Okay, well, we of course got some expired stuff, that is okay, and we have a lot of different small stuff sold, all the Borean leather, but also quite a few transmog gear did sell in the past few days, and in total, the haul is worth 8,058 gold, not bad at all, but that is also nowhere near the goals.
I'm living my best life, now I got money for more bananas.
Switching over to Deathtoll, and also he is opening up his mailbox. Okay, looking better than what I thought it would. The fish have sold, and all of the ore, it looks like, yes, really good. Though cheaper than what it probably should have gone for, but it adds up. So he collected 5,379 gold in this haul.
Big bank, small bank, I like to make money.
Which means our total is 18,789 gold, so we are not done just yet, but it is a nice chunk of the 33k we do need. Deathtoll is taking a bit of a walk here to clear his mind to figure out what to do. I think we got maybe 3 good options. The top one is the rhino skinning, and if we ignore the nexus, we have transmog hunting in Scarlet Halls, and then also herbing and ores in Borean Tundra, though the ores are definitely the big gold here. So after, well, not so much debate, but me and Deathtoll came to the logical conclusion, let's go kill some more things in the halls. Holy moly, look what dropped. We finally got the tablet. Really stoked about that one, and it does look pretty awesome on Deathtoll as well. So yeah, I'm very happy that it finally dropped for us. And when we hit the instance lock, we switch over to farming some Borean Tundra skin for 60 minutes on Deathtoll. And straight back into the halls again, because we need some big tickets. And why not do a new round of trying to min-max the ore farming in Borean Tundra in the downtime of the instance lock the second time around. We got a new high-scoring farm, the pure cobalt farming, 9,580 gold. They are for sure the best thing we can farm right now, as I did also sell some of these earlier for just 20 gold, so the region sale average is not really that far from reality either. The next day, after a 12 hour of auction house soaking, I went back to the mail Ooh, would you look at that? 6,766 gold, and pretty much all of it is from the cobalt ores. That is sweet. And what about Deathtoll? How is she doing? 3,701 gold in the past 24 hours. Not bad, but as we can see, I ended up selling the Boron Tundra leather to a much lower price than what we thought them worth when farming it. So it ended, we have a 30,958 gold on the 2 characters, so we are missing around 2k. So of course, let's double down on the cobalt ore while we can, as that is where the money is right now. With another hour of farming, we have collected 351 cobalt along with a good amount of crystallized water and also earth. So we quickly get back to the auction house to list all of our treasures. 2 hours later, we check back at the mail and yes, it sold. And we have also sent over 17,000 gold from Deathtoll, and that does mean that we now have 36,667 gold. Nice.
Yeah, that's right.
Which means the time has come to deposit the toll and say goodbye to the Boron Tundra. This was nowhere near as bad of a grind as I first thought it to be, much thanks to the cobalt ore of course. And it also means that next time we will have 2 new zones on the wheel in Dragonblight and also in Skolosar Basseng. Those do open up directly with their paths. Well, there will be plenty of choices on the wheel for next time to land on, but that is in the next episode of course. So for now, Deathtoll and also Deathtoll will be waiting for you in the next one.